This video is brought to you by DPA Open Mind, where I just did a 7 hours chit chat session with everyone. Whoa. So we even talk about Ukraine war, so no, check it out. So, hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the situation report or summary for the day of 795 for the 28th of April. That is some terrible transition. So, yeah, do check out the DPA Open Mic. We talked almost like 6 hours worth of Ukraine war. Yeah, there is just that much thing to talk about. So we're going to start off with some frontline changes report. So I already published the frontline changes, but there is still more frontline changes over at the Avdiivka Front. And so at the Avdiivka Front, at the Ocheretyne-Soloviove region, the Russian forces have expanded their control based on Russian reports. There is actually a geolocation that actually verifies and corroborates this information of this expansion of the Russian control over this area here. So this direction means that the Russian forces are continuing towards Sokil. So this is one of them. The other one is actually just as significant over at the Donetsk Front at Krasnohorivka. There is a geolocation of Russian forces attacking from the eastern part of Krasnohorivka, and which means that my prediction is coming true, or actually not really coming true. The Russian forces are now pushing from the east. And this is after the Russians are already pushing from the south. As I mentioned before, the Russian forces like to attack from multiple angles against a settlement based on the past half a year's way of fighting. So this comes as an interesting surprise because they are going through heavily defended, heavily entrenched regions, and they are coming from the north. The Russians are coming. So anyway, yeah, the Russians are coming. So we're going to start off. We are going to continue over to the strategy and tactical reporting. The first thing first was Russian strikes on Ukrainian airfields. There's one strike over at the Dnipro airport. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they hit the Kamenka air base, or basically the Dnipro airport. So there's one hit over there, and there's another two more hits over at this Kreminna region. One is over at the Staro-Konstantinov air base, which is this one. One strike over here. Information they say that is they hit some aircraft and aircraft munition in the hangars. Another one is just nearby over at just near the capital of Kreminna. This one they call it the Priluki. Why is it called Priluki? I'm not sure why is it called Priluki. Anyway, or maybe I got the wrong place. Priluki. Doesn't matter. It's something in the area got hit. Anyway, it got hit. So aircraft and munition supposedly got destroyed. So that's it for these reports. Not very important in my opinion. What is this? Okay, so we go into the Kherson Front. Over the Kherson Front, the Ukrainian mapping, Deep State UA claimed that the Ukrainian forces have captured this island. And this island is very pointless to talk about because I never thought that it is challenged. Let me turn off my Steam. Give me a while. So this island was never really contested. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's just a cope. I like this. Oh, we have captured this island. Then hopefully that you will forget about everything happening at Krasnohorivka, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Kupyansk Front, Kreminna Front, Svatove Front. Yeah, but they conquered a inhabited island in Kherson. So I think that's what happened. Over at there's still fighting reported at Krinky. Again, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 28th of April, there is shelling reported over at Ocheretyne, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So yeah, this is what happened over here. If we zoom out a bit, we're going to see one more near the north of Arkhangelsk over at Ivanivka. There is some shelling reported around here. So very far away. So that's about it. We move into the Zaporizhzhia Front. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, we have multiple reports of things happening around here. Let me see. No, okay, there's nothing over on the eastern part. On the western part of the Zaporizhzhia Front, there is some fighting reported at Kupyansk, over at Robotyne, and as well as Luhivsky. There is a shelling reported at Preobrazhenka, over here at Stepnohurst, and this one is at Pelivka. So just to note that there is Russian reports from today. So usually it's always we talk about the day before, but we happen to have because I did this recording so late, the today's report came out, so I just talk about today's report as well. So this is a combination of 2 days report. So this is a situation over at the Zaporizhzhia Front. There's nothing really significant to talk about. We move into the Donetsk Front. So at the Donetsk Front, the general picture continues to be largely similar. We're going to have fighting reported as Staromayorsky, Uruzaine, over at Vodian, over at Novomihailivka, at Georgievka, and Krasnohorivka. So this is the strategic situation over at this region here. Going to the details, we have over at Uruzaine, the Russians continue to push, Ukrainian forces counter-attack, Russian forces attacking at Staromayorsky as well. There's a multiple geolocation airstrikes. I think these are all airstrikes. So no, one airstrike, this is the attack on the M113, and this one is an airstrike. So Russian forces airstrike Staromayorsky and Uruzaine, and then there's another M113 destroyed over here. We move on. Am I talking too fast? Slow down. Okay. Chill. Let's move on to another gear. And at Voleda, there is some shelling reported at Voleda itself, geolocated. Ukrainian forces is geolocated over at this location, getting hit by FPV drone. So basically, this is north of Volodymyrivka. So nothing significant, pretty predictable. There's fighting reported at Vodian from the 28th to the 29th, according to the Russian and Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Most likely is coming from the east. And we move on further up north over at Novomihailivka. There is fighting reported around this area here. However, the most significant news is Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, acknowledging the capture of Novomihailivka. The initial reports of capture by the Russian Defense Ministry was on the 22nd. It took around a week for the Russians to capture the rest of this Dacha region. So this took 1 week, and then with this capture, the Ukrainian side acknowledged the capture of the entirety of Novomihailivka. So that's all for this area. We move further up north. Nothing much to talk about at the Georgievka. Over at Krasnohorivka, as mentioned in the Frontline Changes report, the Russian forces is now attacking from the east as well as geolocated. That they are taken certain trench, and there is not much heavy trenches now. So they're going to go into the settlement pretty soon. In this direction, Russian forces are pushing towards the eastern part of Krasnohorivka. They are attacking the central part. There is multiple geolocation of bombardments by the Russians all over the place. So yeah, the fighting is very intense at Battle of Krasnohorivka. The battle will continue. We will continue to monitor this. And that's all for the Donetsk Front. We move into the Avdiivka Front. Avdiivka Front is full of icons. You can see is starting to look like they caught chickenpox. So the chickenpox continue with the Russian forces attacking at Netelove. Ukrainian forces counter-attack. There is shelling reported at Zakine. There is Russian fighting at Umansky. Fighting reported at Serhievka and western part of Serhievka. Ukrainian forces counter-attack at Serhievka. Ukrainian forces counter-attack at Bedaichi. Russian attack at Novoporovsky, at Novoselika Persha. At Novobakhmutivka, Ukrainian forces counter-attack at Novobakhmutivka. Fighting reported near Sokil. Ocheretyne counter-attacking at Ocheretyne, fighting towards Novo-Alexandrivka. Fighting reported towards Ocheretyne at Novo-Kalinove at Keramik, and one more, I can't read it, Kalinove. So, and there's something further up north, I'll talk about it later. So this is the strategic picture. It looks ridiculous because there is so many overlapping arrows, and some of the arrows is behind the Ukrainian arrows. It makes zero sense. This just shows how complicated the situation right now. I think even some of these commands may not actually fully know what is happening. So we have some very weird reporting. So we will go into details. So we go into the Netelove region. The significant is the geolocation of Russian forces in the almost the center of Netelove, which means the Russian forces have quietly storm into Netelove as we are all focusing on the things happening in the north. Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking, trying to stop the Russian forces. So this is currently happening. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces at Kharkivka getting hit by the Russian forces. So this could be reinforcements that have gathered into this area here. They are trying to storm out to help out in the defense, and they got struck by Russian forces. So this could be something that had happened around this area here. So we move further up north. Over at this Semenivka region is super complicated, so let me go through a bit. Fighting at Umansk is usual. There's nothing much to talk about. Over at Semenivka, on the 28th, the fighting is reported at Semenivka. And however, in the morning report of the Semenivka, of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they say that the fighting is now west of Semenivka, which means that they already acknowledge that the Russians have pushed out from Semenivka already. The Ukrainian counterattack was reported in today's Russian Defense Ministry report. It could be actually more or less the same thing. The Russians are defending against Ukrainian counterattack as the Russians are pushing out. The Ukrainians are also counterattacking over at Bedaichi over the 2 days. So it could be the Ukrainians are actually trying to push back in a strong response. But however, the Russian Defense Ministry in today's report confirmed that they have captured Semenivka or Semyonovka. So in Russian, so it's Semyonovka in Russian. So this comes after the capture was actually first reported by the both Russian and Ukrainian sources around 2 days ago. So this is 2-3 days ago. So this is the situation around here. And in fact, the situation has developed to the point where we are now seeing reports of fighting over by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They say that the fighting is now at Novoselivka, Persha, over at Novoporovsky, as well as Sokil. All these are coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. It's not Russian. These are Ukrainian propaganda, saying that the Russians are actually pushing out in these directions, and this is the reality of the situation right now. Even the Ukrainian Defense Ministry can't cover the extent of the frontline changes that they are already calling out all these things, because there is I know some pro-Russians don't believe the Ukrainian Defense Ministry report, but you have to understand on the side of the Ukrainians, if the Ukrainian Defense Ministry put out fake information that is too far from the reality, these reports are being read by the Ukrainian soldiers on the ground. So if the Ukrainian soldiers on the ground, they are fighting around this area here, maybe they're at Novoporovsky and they are already under attack. And then if the reports are still talking about, they are defending at Bedaichi, they clearly will be feeling a bit pissed off. Or they are situated at Novoselivska, Persha, and then the Russians are already nearby, and then they are still talking about Semenivka, they will get pissed off, that kind of thing. So it is not viable for the Ukrainian Defense Ministry to lie, or at least lie too much. So this is something to note. There is still fighting being reported at Novoselivove. This is reported on the 28th. But so these are all part of the reports. And the fact that they mentioned Sokil and Soloviove all at the same time could suggest that the Russians are making a bigger push from Ocheretyne, while the Russians are still trying to push out from Soloviove. So this could be a possibility that this push is actually a bit more advanced. Similarly, we are seeing from Soloviove heading towards Novoporovsky, and maybe this break from Bedaichi might be bigger than the one at Semenivka. It could be a possibility because we have the fighting reported as Semenivka, and then they go towards west of Semenivka. So the advance from this northern part might be actually bigger than the one in the south. So which this is how I can rationalize why there's these reports. So fighting reported at Novo-Alexandrivka is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry and Deep State UA, and Kalinove by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. It's interesting they mentioned Kalinove, while they also mentioned Arkhangelsk. So this is a bit more harder to explain. How did the Russians attack Kalinove and Arkhangelsk at the same time? You can only attack one of them, so it's a bit weird. I think they are not entirely sure what is happening right now, or it could be the case that the Russians have advanced further from Karamik towards Kalinove, And this is something that is unreported in our frontline changes. So that could explain why both settlement is being mentioned. So this is something to note. And so the Russians are also have also expanded their control over at Soloviove as well as Ocheretyne. I need to amend this map later because this is geolocated. However, this is a Russian claim. So maybe this part will become a confirmed capture. The below will still remain as a claim. So I will do the changes later. And so geolocation of Russian forces getting hit by the Ukrainians over this location. So the Russians are indeed around here. There's still no confirmation of full capture of Ocheretyne just yet. So there is all these rumors. So it's important to note I know many of you guys watch many different YouTube channels to get your reportings. Just be careful. Don't some reports may be made prematurely by some of these YouTubers that may be a bit too excited. So I just want to take note. Bakhmutivka is also acknowledged to have been captured by the Russian Defense Ministry in yesterday's report. They have confirmed the capture of Bakhmutivka. This comes very late because the first capture was reported on the 23rd, which is actually 1 week ago. So the Russian Defense Ministry's report on this capture is very, very late. And so the Russians are still trying to push towards Arkhangelsk. I think no news regarding that. There is no corroboration about this Russian claim. Fighting is still being reported at Novokalinove and Kramik, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Ryba as well. Ryba basically mentioned about cleansing, about they are trying to clean up the settlement. However, this is not entirely acknowledged by the Russian Defense Ministry because they still reported fighting over at Novokalinove. So this is the situation around here. So and further up north, as I mentioned already, Kalinove, there's a possibility of the Russian already making more advanced in around Kramik region and moving up north. And let me see. Fighting reported at Novo-Alexandrivka is a bit weird. Maybe there's an advance in this direction towards Novo-Alexandrivka, so that's possible. And there's shelling reported at Tarasivka. So this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Over at the New York Front, Ukrainian forces attack at Pivdeny and New York region. Russian forces counterattack at Pivdeny. At the Pivdeny one, the Russians actually attack first, Ukrainian counterattack later. So this is because we have the reports from 2 different days. And we move towards Bakhmut Front. Are you sleepy now? Because I've been talking non-stop for the past 70 minutes. No, drink some coffee, Over at the Bakhmut Front, there is fighting reported at Klishevka and Andriivka. So that's about it. There's nothing really special about these things. We move to the center part of the Bakhmut Front. Fighting reported at Sokil. There's fighting reported towards Chasivya. Ukrainian forces counter-attack. Russian forces attack at Ivanytsky. So this is a strategic situation. There is no developments in this area here. As I mentioned before, this to me is an extremely difficult front to fight. So I do not really see a point of the Russian pushing this direction. But no. So we still did not see the advance in this area here. The focus now is over at the Avdiivka Front, and Ukrainian forces do send in a lot of reinforcement into this front line to hold the line. Which is also why there might be actually no advance in this area here. So we move on further up north. There is fighting reported at Kharkiv, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So, but that's about it. It could be a one-off. The last report of this fighting is over on the 11th of March. So this could be just a one-off thing. We move further to the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, there is fighting reported at Ocheretyne-Soloviove as well as towards Vimka. And there's a geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by rocket artillery over at Serebyanka. And that's about it from this front line. Over at the Kreminna Front, there is quite a number of things. I have to zoom out. Okay, Russian forces attacking towards Krasnohorivka. They're attacking through the Serbsky forestry, attacking through Dibrova, towards Terny, towards Nevsky and Makievka. Ukrainian forces are on the defensive in this area here. Geolocation of a Lancet hitting the Ukrainian MLRS is reported just off Liman. So this is the situation over the Kreminna Front. despite all these attacks, we're not sure how whether this is actually a full-scale offensive, but it's looking very, very serious right now. And the same question is now being poised over in the Svatove Front as well, because the Russians are now pushing over at Berestove, Stemekivka, towards Kopanki, Novosibirsk, and of course, this is just now the Makiivka region, and Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking at Novosibirsk and Stemekivka. And the Kopanki and Novosibirsk is now a second day going. At least for the Kopanki, second day. Novosibirsk, there's a previous attack on the 17th. We might be witnessing a new operation, a new offensive operation right now over at the Svatove, Kreminna, and Kupyansk Front. This is what I think is currently might be developing. And over on the Kupyansk Front, there is fighting reported at Sinkivka towards Petropavlivka. There is fighting reported at Kharkiv, and Berestove was mentioned just now. And over at Kharkiv, there is developments after Russians have taken most of the eastern part. They continue to expand their control. They have now taken more than 50% of the settlement. Ukrainian forces reportedly have retreated towards Ocheretyne-Soloviove. So this development is a sign that this offensive, over from the Kupyansk all the way to the Kreminna Front might be serious. So this, if I zoom out towards the entire front line, this is a bit too big. Okay, let's say here, okay, we have Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, we have Kharkiv. What is this? This is Berestove. And Novosibirsk, Stemekivka, then there is this two, it's called Kopanki and Novosibirsk, and Makiivka, Nevelske, Terny, Dibrova, Serbianske Forestry. Do you see what I see? No, it is a massive big arrow offensive right now throughout the entire front, the entire Luhansk Kharkiv border. So this might be serious. Of course, we have seen this before, something like this before, but the Ukrainian forces then and the Russian forces then 1 year ago is not the Ukrainian and Russian forces today, which is why this could mean very, very different thing. So so we have to keep a close eye, because this might develop into a new massive offensive operation, which might allow the Russians to eventually capture the entire eastern bank of the Oskil River, and everything on the eastern part of the Siversk Donetsk River. So this is a very, very serious situation that is developing over at this area here. Yeah, is it Oskil River? Yeah, it's correct, Oskil River. So we move into the Kharkiv Front. At the Kharkiv Front, there is a Lancet hit on the Ukrainian artillery system over at this area of Slobozhansk. And at Kharkiv itself, there's a Russian missile strike being reported, and that's about it over at the Kharkiv Front. There is a lot of talk. I know some other channels are talking about Kharkiv offensive, one not. So no, I have talked extensively over in the DPA open mic, and I'm going to repeat again. There is no reason for the Russians to do it. There's no need for the Russians to do it, because the West is still supplying weapons to Ukraine. Until the Western support and aid dries up, I don't expect the Russians to open new fronts, because every new front you open, you are just creating more vulnerability for yourself as well. The Ukrainians cannot attack into the Russian territory because they are limited by the Western side. Even they tried at the Belgorod offensive, that has failed massively. So the Russians have no reason to need to do it, because the aim is demilitarization. Doing a slow grind in the established front lines is enough to draw all the Ukrainian military to get demilitarized at the front lines. So there's no need to quickly capture new grounds in the new front line, because it's not the time yet. And we already see the result of the Ukrainian forces do not have enough munition and equipment, allowing the Russians making quick progress. So now imagine the scenario where the West totally give up on Ukraine. So this, I believe, is the scenario that Putin and the Russian side is waiting for, and they're waiting for the total seizure or total cease seizing of supplies of anything to Ukraine. And when that happened, that's when you're going to see the Russians really go into a mass offensive across all fronts. They're going to launch an attack in the Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv in the repeat of the beginning of the war. They're going to see the massive attack through Luhansk. They will try to capture the entire Donetsk. They're going to push up the rest of Zaporizhzhia. They're going to cross the river at Kherson. And they're going to attack through Mykolaiv towards Odessa. And then they're going to Pincer, Dnipro, hit towards all these other regions I can't really pronounce, and then they will push down to Potova and then go along all the entire Dnipro river and capture at least half of Ukraine. So, but for this to happen, the West have to stop supplying stuff, and if you're pro-Ukraine, then you have to continue to ask to sacrifice your country to give more stuff to Ukraine. If not, the Russians are not going to launch to open up the Kharkiv offensive. It's just not worth it, because if you open up right now, you are just triggering the West into you're corroborating the claims that Russia is trying to conquer the rest of Europe. So the idea is just to bore the hell out of the West to make them give up. So that's about it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update.